there, Whovians, and welcome to another episode of Earth Station Who. That's right, we are back, and we are looking at the colorized version of the War Games. Woohoo! This should be a ton of fun. They actually took 5 hours of Doctor Who and condensed it into 90 minutes. And so, did it work? Did it not? We'll talk about it. I think most of us have a lot of comments on this one and a lot of thoughts on it. We've got a great crew to talk all about it tonight. Let's welcome our guest back to the show, Mr. Matthew Kresal. Welcome, sir.
Thank you again for having me.
It's always good to have you, sir. How have you been?
I've been doing okay. So it's been a rough few months, but I am doing better, thankfully.
That's good. What if, since we have you here, and we'll get it into, you're our victim tonight in the Geek seat. So we'll talk about Doctor Who, because I know a lot of your history with the show and everything. And I remember you did the Geek seat on Earth Station 1 way back. And everything.
Yes, it's been a few years, yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this last season, since we haven't talked since then?
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked, I think, since 73 Yards, if I remember correctly. So it's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
But as for this last season, I very much enjoyed it on the whole. It was, I think, as much as I enjoyed Judy's first season, I felt that this season was very much a step up in terms of quality, in terms of the writing, bringing in a new companion as well. And it's just, and once you do that, there's a whole change in dynamic. I really enjoyed most of the season. I even enjoyed Reality Wars, bonkers as it was, for about 98% of its length. And then that last 20, 30 seconds hit, and I got to the end of it, and I don't think I can repeat what I actually said out loud.
We can bleep you out if you want to say it.
Yeah, we've probably all already said it.
Yeah, we've said it on the show.
I think my exact words were, "Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me."
You know what?
And the worst part is that I had seen a rumor to the effect 3 or 4 days earlier on ironically a non-Doctor Who forums Doctor Who thread, and had gone out to Gallifrey Base and had seen the photos that were doing the round, which all ended up being fake anyways. None of them were from the episode, and I just kind of dismissed it as kind of very wishful thinking on somebody's part. And then I actually saw it, and to this, I still don't know how I feel about Reality War as an episode, because it's kind of that last 20, 30 seconds just kind of made the whole thing nosedive as far as I'm concerned. And it's just, I think, I love Billie Piper. I loved Rose as a character. I enjoyed her as an actress. I still do. I think if David Tennant hadn't just come back 18 months before, I'd be a lot more open to the idea. But on the back of that, and knowing that they had to go reshoot the ending of the season to, shoehorn her in, I am still not a happy Whovian.
No, I agree completely with that. And, if they didn't do the reshoots, though, we wouldn't have gotten the Jodie scenes, which were brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything. So there's one plus for it. So
yeah. I will say my niece was visiting me when Reality War went out, so she has now become a bit of a Doctor Who fan, which is, rather nice for me, as a proud nerd uncle. On the other hand, I just wish she'd been introduced to it through something a little bit better.
I love that, though. That's awesome that you were able to do that, though. Yeah. And you officially win the Cool Uncle Award for doing that. So it's pretty cool.
I will say my brother and sister-in-law took my niece to Florida just a week or so ago, and when they got back, they were telling me that she was begging to watch Doctor Who on the trip, so I don't think they're necessarily happy with me, though.
Well, take the good, you take the bad,
Indeed. Well, I mean, that's life as a Doctor Who fan these days, it feels like.
Very, very true. Completely true on that one. Let's also say hi to our regulars. Mike G is off recording the Dragon Con report tonight. So, woohoo. So, we've got more important things. We got Doctor Who to talk about. So, no Mike G this week, but he will be back with us next time. Let's say, of course, hello to Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
And returning once again to the show, Ms. Melanie Dean.
Hello, fellow Whovians. I can't wait to chat Who with you.
Oh, cool. There hasn't been all that much Doctor Who news. So, we did, I will say this. We did get confirmation from BBC that we are getting the spinoff in the fall. And they just haven't given us dates yet. But
Of course they haven't.
But it, of course not. They probably a week before will get it or something like that. But we did get that. It was on their like the reel they do of all the new shows coming this fall, and the trailer, the War Between the Land and the Sea, was in there. So I think it's pretty awesome, and very much looking forward to that. And of course, your crew here will be, of course, reviewing it, because I think it's going to be a hell of a long time till we get new Who, before that. So get prepared for us, pulling things from our butts, pretty much, to talk about.
What's new?
Comics.
Yeah, comics. Oh, look, more Big Finish. Oh, wait,
There's a lot of Big Finish.
A lot of Big Finish.
Yes. So. But yeah, we have a ton of stuff to do, so don't worry, we're not going anywhere, folks. And we'll be here to entertain you. As we like to say, Doctor Who podcasters are on the rung of entertainment, right below the monkeys with cymbals. Ching, 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 ching. You look right underneath the entertainment ladder, and there's Doctor Who podcasts. So it's we're proud to say that. At least we're above mimes, so it's a good thing, So it's all good there. So, Matthew, you get to be our victim tonight in the Whovian Geek seat. So we definitely would love for you to strap back, relax, and let's give you a shot at it.
All right.
You feel confident, sir?
Barely.
Okay. Wow.
Good answer.
Good. Matthew hasn't mentioned at all that he used to be, were you co-chair of Concaster Burrs? Or?
Yep. I started as a volunteer and eventually got promoted to being one of the con chairs of that. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. I do miss that con. I really miss that con. You guys put on a great show.
Yeah, it was a good one. I don't miss the stress and stuff that was involved with it, but I do miss, because it was the anniversary of it was just a few weeks ago, for when we usually had it in June. So it was a fun few days of seeing stuff popping up in my feed from years back. So I miss that part of it, the camaraderie and the coming together, but I don't miss the stress of the organization and all that jazz.
Oh, I'm sure, and it was funny too, because I have the same memories, because we were there. I think we did like 5 years straight with you guys, something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And it was always fun, driving out to Huntsville, and it's such a gorgeous ride anyway. And it's great coming out there. And, in my memories, the last one that popped up, it was pictures of Judy with Barrowman. So it was just awesome.
Aww.
And, so I asked Judy, do you remember this? She says, I remember he smelled wonderful. So it's pretty awesome. It is awesome. So you gave Judy a good memory. So there you go.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes. And, the memories also, somebody had to remind me when I mispronounced what was it, Katrin Stewart's, the first name. I called her Catherine. It was like, she says, oh, I get that all the time. So it was.
She was very sweet about it.
Oh, she was great. She was great. And, then we had a lot of great memories there, and we won't go down that path. People are going, okay, get on with the geek seat already. Come on. You guys are padding. Yeah, that's it. We're padding. That's it. All right. Matthew, your first question in the geek seat.
All right.
Who was your first Doctor?
There's actually two different answers to this, because this is Doctor Who. So I actually went back and looked. There's a wonderful website called Broadcast Hugh, where Steve Hill and a group of people have gone through, and they've basically made a catalog of every Doctor Who TV broadcast pretty much ever. And I've actually been able to narrow it down. I can't tell you the exact date off the top of my head. May 2001, I saw Planet of Evil episodes 3 and 4 together on BBC America.
Oh, cool.
And that was a start of a little tale of me getting into the show for a very, very brief moment of Fourth Doctor reruns that were at 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, because I was on summer vacation in sort of late middle school. My dad insisted I had to get up at 6 a.m. like it was regular school, and he would leave at 6:45 for work along with my mom. So, trying to keep myself awake and entertained, I spent a week or so watching Tom Baker reruns, and then my luck being my luck, that was actually the last time BBC America showed Doctor Who until the new series started up.
Really?
I actually have narrowed it down to that. So it was like literally I watched some of the last stuff they showed on the channel Doctor Who wise until like 2006 when they picked up Eccleston's season after it showed on the Sci-Fi channel.
Right.
So you could say the Fourth Doctor. I usually say technically Peter Davison, but really any of the first 5 Doctors, because 6 years later in a public library in the smallish town of Gunnersville, Alabama, I was walking through the public library one day on my way to Burger King, where I was working at the time, and came across a bunch of Doctor Who, Classic Who DVDs sitting on the shelf with a vague memory of having watched those Tom Baker stories. And I picked up the 5 Doctors, the special edition to be exact, and watched that. So
cool.
You could argue it's, Tom Baker or, any of the first 5 Doctors, so it really depends on if you want the technical answer or the, moment I became a fan answer.
No, that's very cool. I love it. That's, and it's neat because you were in it as a little kid and then you got to reimagine it years later and everything, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're cool. Which Doctor would you want to travel with?
Oh, probably Jodie, actually, the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. She seems
really?
like she seems like, that sort of ebullient and sort of full of energy. I mean, there's a little bit of darkness there, but she's, there's Doctors who you really want to travel with, who sort of take in the joy of the universe, in a way. And I feel like Jodie would be the most fun to travel with in that regard.
No, totally understand that completely. And it's actually interesting. 2 weeks in a row, we've had that as the answer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So very cool. What Doctor would you not want to travel with?
Oh, this is going to break my heart a little bit because I love John Hurt and I love the War Doctor and also Jonathan Carley, who's been playing him in the stuff that's the War Doctor stuff that earlier in his timeline. Right. I just imagine traveling with the War Doctor through the Time War would be the easiest way to get blown up and or wiped out of existence altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to have to go with the War Doctor there.
Ooh, gotcha. No, I like that. All right. It's true, but, it's sad at the same time. But what geeks you out the most about Doctor Who?
Oh, so good use of continuity, the sort of the ways that the show kind of ties itself back together, the scene in Earthshock Part 2 where the Cybermen are watching those little brief clips of the previous TV Cybermen adventures, or at least the ones that were in the BBC archive circa late 1981. Sort of those moments where you're kind of aware of the show kind of having its history, those little callbacks. It was something weirdly talking about the 5 Doctors, but all and watching that and sort of coming into it, and in a way, it was a really interesting sort of introduction or reintroduction to the show, because it was suddenly, I think there's people who, I think if you go to it and you get all that history thrown at you at once, that there's 5 Doctors and Daleks and Cybermen and Time Lords and, the Master and all that. I think there's people who just go, and walk away from it. But there's something about having that history kind of thrown at me that really just appealed to me in a big way. So I love the history of the show and kind of following it and sort of.
What turns your geek off about Doctor Who?
Oh, I don't know if it's necessarily the show itself, but it's certainly, a certain section of my fellow fans, particularly for about the last, 7 or 8 years, who just seem keen to ruin the show for everybody else because they're not enjoying it. But I think that seems to be a problem with fandom across the board. So that's a weird thing to say, I suppose, about a show that I love and adore and, has changed my life in huge ways. But there's times when my fellow fans could be very grating.
No, number one answer right there. So cool. At least it's consistent. It is consistent. It is fandom. So. Which Doctor Who companion would you like to meet the most?
Oh, I feel like and it may be because I've just been watching the season 7 Blu-ray that's just come out recently here in the U.S. But I feel like Liz Shaw would be fun to meet. Is a bit of a nerd and is somebody who's interested, is a bit of a polymath with, interest in a little bit of anything and everything, as Liz Shaw is, as we know, with her dozen degrees and things. She seems like she'd be a really interesting person to kind of meet and have conversations with.
Well, sure. No, that totally makes sense. It would be interesting to talk to her. I like the in the River Song Big Finish audios that they did with her joining Unit. I thought I loved what they did between her, River, and Liz Shaw.
Yeah, I know. I got to be on a panel with Daisy Ashford, who's Caroline John's daughter, who's now playing Liz at Big Finish, including in that set. And I know that Daisy Ashford has said she had a blast making that set and really wants to do more. Though, I guess we'll see if Big Finish listens.
Nope, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Which Doctor Who villain would you like to meet the least?
Oh, I've always found the Cybermen creepy. And I don't know, I've probably the Cybermen, because it's just, there's something creepy about, something that can be human but isn't human, and seems, bent on turning you into one of them as well.
Well, exactly. It's like meeting the Borg, but, in the Doctor Who verse.
Yes.
Exactly. Instead of resistance is futile, it's just delete, 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 So.
Yep.
That's awesome. What was your favorite Doctor Who geek out moment?
Oh, speaking of Con-K, because we were talking about it earlier, and this is one of those particular moments to myself, but there was one, the year we had Sylvester McCoy, which would have been 2014. So for those who somehow have missed over the years, I do have, a full Seventh Doctor cosplay getup. And
oh, yes, he does.
Yes, and we had McCoy that year, and Bonnie, who was the head of the con, got the bright idea that when she announced for Sylvester to come out at opening ceremonies, I should come out of the box, come out of the TARDIS and sort of walk on stage, and because it would be distance and whatnot, and Sylvester and I vaguely look like each other, especially from a distance, that, it would be one of those things fun to do, and Sylvester dresses up, as Seven from time to time at conventions. So there was that sort of 20, 30 seconds at most that I got to sort of be Sylvester McCoy and got to be the Seventh Doctor before McCoy popped out of the TARDIS screaming imposter and I had to go running off stage. So that was probably, the really cool moment, because it was like for that sort of 20, 30 seconds I got to be the Doctor, which, who doesn't want to be if you're a Doctor Who fan?
Sure. No, it totally makes sense. What was your most disappointing Doctor Who geek out moment?
I think we've already covered it, sort of at the beginning of it. That may be fresh in my mind because it's so recent, but the Ncuti turning into Billy Piper is still, I've still got a sore spot about that for anybody who didn't notice. So
I can understand that. I think, you're not alone on that one, my friend.
Yeah. It may be one of those that, you come back in 2-3 years' time, hopefully, and ask me that question again. My answer might be something completely different. Part of it will be, how do they resolve that? Do they resolve that, for that matter? But for the moment, I'm going to have to go with that moment.
Nope. Understand that. Are you ready for your final question in the Geek Seat, sir?
Yes.
What or who would you like to see on Doctor Who?
Oh, well, as a history nerd, it's always perturbed me that we've never had a proper Doctor Who JFK assassination story, given that, Kennedy's assassinated the day before the show goes out, indeed plays a role in sort of why the viewership is the way it is for An Unearthly Child's first episode. I've always wanted to see and always wanted to do kind of a proper Doctor Who, does Dealey Plaza, does the whole JFK assassination thing. I've always felt like the anniversary years, are always the great place to do that, but I don't know if it's, budget, or maybe there's still some sensitivity about that, but I've always felt that's the one of the few historical events Doctor Who hasn't done that I'd really like to see them tackle. Because I feel like Doctor Who being Doctor Who, there's going to be an interesting, Whovian solution to what was going on in Dallas that day.
Well, yeah, but, Red Dwarf took care of it for Doctor Who, pretty much.
That's fair, and Takia to Ride is a hoot for anybody who hasn't seen it. It is well worth a watch.
Yes, it is actually. And, it talks about killing your own self in some ways. So, oh, wait, spoilers if you haven't watched Red Dwarf. So,
Yes.
I think that episode is 22 years old, 23 years old?
I think it may be older than that at this point.
It might be 30 years.
I was going to say, I think it's either 97 or 98. So, good grief.
Yeah. I know. We're all just getting old here. It's okay. It's okay. But I've got great news for you, Matthew. You've made it through the Geek Seat. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mike Gordon is not here to give the prize. I'll let Mary give the prize this time.
You get a lifetime supply of absolutely nothing but our sincere gratitude.
Wow. And of course, Melanie's giving a round of applause. So,
There's nothing worth more than our sincere gratitude.
Well, coming from this crowd in this podcast, that is reward enough.
We appreciate you. We really, really do appreciate you, Matthew. Thank you so much for everything, as always. And you too can join in and want to be a participant in the Geek Seat. All you have to do is write us feedback@earthstationwho.com. We definitely would love to have you join us. And now that we are maybe entering the new wilderness years, we would love to have new people join us for the show. And, if you feel game, we definitely would love to have you. All right, folks, let's take a quick break and we will be back in a moment. And we will be jumping in headfirst for the War Games in Color.
Woohoo!
Hey there, welcome back. Now we are going back to the War Games. I would say we'd be going back to, April 19th through June 21st, 1969, which we kind of did because it was originally 10 parts and they knocked it down from, like I said at the beginning of the show, from 5 hours down to 90 minutes. And we were talking during the break here that, they cut almost like 65% of the show out. And there was so much to talk about with this. And let me get a consensus. Have you guys seen the full War Games?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh.
No. Oh, interesting.
Ooh, this would be an interesting perspective.
I think because I got a feeling I still feel the same way you guys are gonna feel.
Okay. So what they did, they released last year for in I think November back in the UK. They released this. It was October or November, I think. They released this out as a special, I think, and they showed it on BBC, and it got very good reviews, and the restoration was beautiful, and the animations they used, and I thought they did a great job with that. I'm going to go out and say that right there. In the black, it was neat to see. You could see a couple spots where they missed the black and white a little bit. And, they showed, they cut to a scene and it was black and white. Then the color kicked in real quick or something. And it was like a quick edit or something. Let's go around and get initial. Matthew, what were your thoughts on the restoration and the episode itself?
The restoration is superb, it has to be said. I mean, they clearly spent a lot of time and stuff on it. And as I said, talking about me when I was in the seat, that, I've just been watching the Season 7 Blu-ray release where they had to do a lot of restoration work because that first Pertwee season, by and large, is missing in its original color, so they had to restore the color and had to clean up the pictures and everything else. And it was really indistinguishable, by and large. The actual footage from '69 was really indistinguishable from what I just, spent 2-3 weeks watching across that Blu-ray set. I mean, you could, interchangeably or, seamlessly sort of there. So that bit of it I loved. I have to say, in terms of the edit and stuff to it, I've never been the biggest fan of War Games. in its original form. It's a story that, I feel like in some regards, because it's this important piece of Doctor Who lore, it's the first time, the first time we hear about the Time Lords, it's the first time we meet the Time Lords. It's the first time, it's the last, Patrick Troughton story, it's the first time we go to Gallifrey, even though it's not called Gallifrey for another 4 years.
Right.
It's like the 10th planet in that regard, that because of what it is, I think it's taken on a greater importance, because... And I know why it's 10 episodes, because I was lucky enough 15 years ago to talk to Terrence Dix, and he sort of recounted, the story of, we had a 6-parter and a 4-parter go down, and we had no choice. We had to write a 10-parter. And in that regards, it is kind of a slightly cobbled together, how do we get to the next week's cliffhanger kind of thing. So I've always struggled with it, even watching it on VHS out of the local public library, in 2008, I think it was, maybe 2009, and I struggled with it there, even watching it an episode at a time. So I was curious to see, how do you cut, better part of 4 to 5 hours worth of stuff down to 95 minutes? And I have to say, I very much enjoyed it. It was, when we had the Daleks in Color, which preceded this, I was very skeptical of that. Watched it and very much enjoyed it. So I went into this with, higher expectations than I had when I went into that Dalek story. And I enjoyed it very much. I think it really... there's little moments that I hate that are lost. The doctor sitting there playing solitaire while he's waiting for the verdict for his trial, for example. Mm-hmm. Or the little bits where him, Jamie and Zoe try to escape. It's all from that last episode, really, is the stuff I really miss. But I thought in terms of the editing and how they brought it down, there's a few clunky moments. But compared to the flashback kind of heaviness that was the Daleks in Color, I thought this really worked well. But I have a sneaking suspicion that I may be the most positive person on the panel this evening.
No, I don't think so. There was a lot to like about this. Mary, it's your first time. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
War Games virgin.
She is.
I've never seen the original. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never seen the whole thing. And I did enjoy this. I did. There are spots we can talk about where there were problems, but I overall, I did enjoy it. And I did think they did a good job on the restoration. I do think some of the editing was not very well done. It was really choppy in some places.
Oh, it looked like they took a chainsaw to parts.
Yes, yeah, and they'd be in one spot, and then all of a sudden, magically, they were somewhere else. And,
well, exactly.
Yeah, so they could have put more thought into that. I mean, my God, give it another 5 minutes to put in some transitions. That took me out of it when that happened. So I regret that, because I do think the restoration people did a great job, and it's too bad that the editing didn't hold up to that. But overall, I enjoyed it. I love seeing Patrick Troughton. He's always good. He's good in this too. So it's still a fun episode. It's just that it could have been better.
Okay. All right, Mel.
I did something insane. And
again?
That was, and that was, I had never seen War Games. And when I saw that it was a 10-parter and then turned into 90 minutes, and all I could think, well, this has to end terribly. I watched the 10-parter first, and then I had time, and I watched the 90 minutes.
This is dedication.
Wow. She gets the A and the gold star for this.
Has nothing to do with the fact that I got it confused at first. I thought we were actually
it's an Adric gold star.
Because it was easier to find the 10-parter first, and I was already halfway through, and then went, oh, wait, he wrote Revisited on the Word doc, and went, oh no. Oh, well, we're in for a penny and for a pound. We're going to finish this bad boy. We're doing this.
Is War Games streaming on BritBox, the original?
The original is streaming on Tubi.
Oh, okay.
All the episodes are right there on Tubi. You can watch all of them.
Okay.
In order to find the one in color, I had to borrow my husband's VPN
to
get it on BBC.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, that's why it was easy, because at first I was like, oh, okay, found it. Here we go. And all right, this is a long one, but that's okay, because it's Troughton's Swan Song, blah, 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 blah. So I have the interesting perspective of seeing it one after the other, and seen the full version in Terrence Dick's Glory, Writing Glory, and then the truncated one. Now, if I saw the truncated, that would be interesting for Mary, since she's seen truncated first, and then see the full one and realize, oh, you mean all the there's B plot, there's C plot. You mean all these extra little characters who have one or two lines interact with each other, and there's so much more that's going on? It would be kind of interesting.
Well, the whole side of the rebellion was almost ripped out of this story.
And, at one point you're like, who are these fools? I don't even know. And for me, I'm looking, going, that's really what you reduced them to? So it's different when, from, like I said, my perspective. From to Matthew's point, as a looking at it from something that was old and restored, that was because now I'm down in the rabbit hole after I was done and going onto YouTube and finding out that when they were restoring it, it was because it was for the part of the 60th anniversary hoodoo.
Exactly.
So that's when they did that, and that they were finding video. Well, it's on video. That's how we have it. But the thing is, it's filmed on filmed, transferred to video, and then they put it out on the BBC.
Right.
And that's the copies that you kind of have or disappeared. They were able for this to find film. And some of it, they found the film only a couple weeks before it's released.
Yep.
So they're like, we found something better. You got to colorize this now. So that stuff's really, I'm all about that. That's so interesting to me.
It was
the preservation.
It was interesting too, because on the disc they have under the special stuff, they have the restorated, the film they found. And
about
everything.
6.5 minutes or so.
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks amazing.
Yes.
Oh, but by comparison, and on it, the color version, they did color beautifully. It looked real. It didn't have that weird pastel, like someone literally just went over and took MS Paint and boop, you're peach colored. Boop, this is going to be red.
This felt like it was made for color, and it didn't feel like it was forced. Like if you ever remember when Turner Classics did Gone with the Wind, and it felt like someone was playing with Microsoft Paint, and and just throwing the colors on there. The blue of Troughton's shirt, and just the colors in all the characters.
Only a couple times it felt oversaturated, and only then just a little bit.
A little bit, but I thought they did an amazing job. I liked how when they showed the headquarters of the bad guys, they had the little biplanes flying in the background and everything with the model work and everything. It was really awesomely done, and it made me realize how long they must have been filming this, because there were scenes where Jamie, they had a close-up of Jamie, and with the restoration, he had cuts from where he shaved or something, and then in the next scene he was fine. So it must have been 2 episodes later that they had cut all this part out, and it was just really well done. I love the character of Zoe. I love Jamie. These are my two of my favorite companions, and you miss out on so many great moments in this, because they barely touched on the whole scene with the redcoat and Jamie in the cell. That's almost a whole episode right there, and in the original. And then, the whole thing, the ambulance is surrounded by these soldiers from all different eras, and it turned out to be the rebellion. You don't see that, and you don't even learn about the rebellion. They barely touched on how the different commanders were actually the alien race that was working, was controlling everybody. And there was the one commander who you first thought he was just the German commander, but then he turned up in the Civil War era with a deep Southern accent and everything. And you barely saw that kind of stuff in this. And there were so many great moments. There were moments between, you had the war chief and the doctor, and boy, were they heavily hinting on who the war chief was.
They were hinting it in the original. Man, did they no longer hint, and they almost full retconned.
I was fully expecting, and I'll just say this as one of the add-ons when he got killed. I'm using air quotes because he's Gallifreyan, and I fully expected them to switch back, him still laying on the ramp and him start glowing.
You hear the regeneration sound in the background when they're dragging him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, he's turning into Delgado right there, and so it was just, they were not gentle on that part in this.
Oh no, they were hitting you over the head with it.
Oh yeah. And they, even to the point where, I know who he is. That is the doctor, type thing. He is one of my people, and, type thing. And when they had the conversation, there was familiarity there and everything.
Yeah.
So, and everything. And they cut so much of that out.
I think there's enough of it still there for you to kind of follow it and to get the sense of the relationship. But I think it's the problem with trying to turn, 10 episodes into really the equivalent of 4. There's stuff that's going to have to go by the wayside, and those little character moments are there. To be fair, this is not the first time this has happened to the War Games. When Malcolm Hulke did the Target novelization in the late 70s before he passed away, Target did not let him do, 2 books like John Peel got to do with the Daleks Master Plan. They gave him the usual, 30 or 40,000 words and 140 to 160 pages to play in. So it's literally, the episodes are like 10 or 12 pages each, which is about 10 or 12 minutes of screen time.
Right.
So it can be done, and indeed it happened here. I've not read the novelization, I have to say, to my shame, but from what I understand from a couple of friends who have, the novelization seems like it was kind of the guide work for how they did the edit here. So, and Malcolm Hulke was the original co-writer of it. Mm-hmm. So you could argue that, we're kind of seeing this kind of, if this had been made into a movie, if, say, the Peter Cushing stuff had kept going, into the tail end of the 60s, early 70s, and they had made a Cushing version of the War Games, it might have looked something like this, or it might have ran something like this.
Right, exactly. And that was one of the cool things with this was, it was abridged, it was still fun, but how did they get here? How did they get there? It was more like that. Mary, did you feel that when you were watching it?
I totally felt that. Well, it's interesting because my beloved grandmother, she had vision problems. She was almost blind, but she was an avid reader. And so the only large print books you could get at that time, this is back in the 70s, was the Reader's Digest condensed version.
Oh.
Because Reader's Digest used to put out a series of books where they condensed novels. I don't think they do it anymore. But it was the only large print books you could get. So that's what she had in her house. And we would go there every summer. And I would read some of them because I was an avid reader too. And so I would just pick up whatever was around. And it reminded me so much of those books because it was like they tried to, and this often happens when you try to condense something, and it's just what you guys are saying, which is interesting because I haven't seen the original, but I have the same take, is that I missed the character moments.
Yeah.
And I could, and that's just what used to happen when they condensed the novels. They would take out the character moments in favor of the action moments. Mm-hmm. But action isn't everything. It is not all parts of a story. If you have a story that's only action, then you are not going to feel it as deeply as something that includes you getting to know and care about the characters. And so it gave me enough of the main characters, but I think I completely lost all the side characters, basically.
Oh, you did
not have the same impact.
You did. All the different members of the rebellion when they came to the headquarters. You were like going, "Who are these guys?" Watching it and everything, and you didn't have a clue, but you've met them. If you see the full version, you met them multiple times, and there's like the one from the Spanish-American War, the bandito basically, who was the hothead and everything. You had some conflicts between him and the Doctor already before that, and in the original, and so, but you didn't see that in this version. You just see that, I don't feel anything. What are you trying to,
I had such whiplash. And I mean, we've reviewed many Classic Who here, and I've had the pleasure on being on from my time being here. And I have a tendency of saying, you know what, this could have just been condensed down a little bit. 4 episodes could have been just condensed a little to 3. Or this was 10 episodes that could have been, to me, condensed maybe to 8 or 9. Not a lot. Just
they could have easily cut 2 episodes out of it.
Yeah.
Not to 4. Not to 4, and you went to 4.
I mean, they even could have done 2 hours, which would have been 5 episodes or 5-ish going on 6. They could have done that, and I think it would have had a bit more room to breathe in places. And there is sort of, and I admire the way that they tried to cover the jumps in continuity and the jumps in story, some of which they covered better than others. I applaud them for the effort. And by and large, I think, it works. Though, to be fair, it's been, probably 7 or 8 years minimum since the last time I've watched the story. But there are moments, there's the whole bit when they end up in the Civil War zone and the tree gets knocked over and where Carstairs is in the ambulance changes between shots because they've lost the moment where he went from the back of the ambulance to the front of the ambulance.
Right.
There's places where they cover it a bit more successfully, whether it's through voiceover on TV screens or that last, in the bit in the TARDIS when they're trying to escape and they're actually using the fact that the Time Lords are messing around with time for the fact that they've snipped, 30 seconds out of the scene at one point.
Right.
That's a little more successful than some of the other stuff they do. But there is, especially, the way that first episode is sort of condensed down. They cut the first episode in half. And I think that, there's, another, even 5 minutes, as I think Mary said. But even if they'd given it another 15 or 20, I think it would have had more space to breathe.
Oh, I agree completely with that. I think it was just, you didn't get, like, what happened to that person? What happened to this person? Oh, that person got shot? Why did they get shot? It's like, it was just like, boom, 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 boom. And it's like,
if you were wondering where any loose ends were in the in color version, they were tidied up in the full.
Yes, there was actually the story actually. It's
like the Civil War.
Oh, the story made sense. Well, and it was funny too. When they took the Jeep, the ambulance Jeep to the Civil War era, and they were like, "What is that you're in? A horseless carriage?" Type thing. And it was fun to see. And, you had they had the extra things where people kept on getting hypnotized by them, by the leaders, and they, turned against the Doctor a couple times and stuff like that. And they cut that out. And, that was okay, because that just got old after a while.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely places of padding in the original just simply because they were trying to get to 10 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
And Terrence Dicks himself, I don't know how he would have felt about this being cut down, but I know he always maintained that there was a decent 4-parter or 6-parter in here stretched out to 10. So I don't know if he would have necessarily approved of it being cut down to 95 minutes, but I think he would have approved of somebody, going back to what him and Malcolm Holt did and finding a way of making it a bit tighter and to work faster. And of course, this isn't meant for us. We're all Classic Who fans or people familiar with Classic Who. This isn't meant for us. It's meant for the younger people who've grown up watching modern Who, for whom Classic Who is this strange thing, that looks more like a soap opera than anything else and that moves at a very different pace. It's meant for them rather than it is for us.
Were you entertained by this, at least, Mary? Did you enjoy it?
I was. I did enjoy it. And in fact, it made me want to go watch the original.
Okay.
Because I was enough invested in it. And I always enjoy Patrick Troughton. Patrick Troughton's so great. And Jamie and Zoe. I mean, they are like the perfect TARDIS team. Mm-hmm. I've always loved them. And that alone was worth it.
And Troughton is so manipulative in this one, and it is so good, and it makes me realize why he was one of my favorite doctors. And I did read the novelization because I was a Target fan for years, and as soon as the books came out, I was working at a bookstore, and my manager said, "New Doctor Who on the order. You getting this, and this? I have one copy each for you, Mike." It's just like yes, they like me. So it was always good with that, but it definitely was lacking, I think, but I liked how it tied into more of a modern mythos, and like Matthew said, it's more for a modern audience and opening their eyes to it.
Especially just the music.
Oh,
yeah.
God, yeah.
Sometimes I thought the music was a little overpowering. So I'm like, what the?
Was it Murray doing the music in this?
He did some of the music.
Yeah, they reused some. It's Mark Ayers did the music because he also did the music for the Daleks in color. So because I got to see him on a panel talking about it, both of them at Chicago last year. So what he did was he took Dudley Simpson's original score and he built on top of that. So a lot of the music that's in this is Dudley Simpson still.
Right.
But it has, a stronger element on there because some of the recordings still exist, some of them don't. So it's been given a sort of slightly more orchestral feel than Murray Gold with, 6 musicians would have been able to do. But parts of it are definitely, as Ayers said, lifting pieces from the modern Murray Gold scores, particularly the season 3 John Sims stuff.
Right. Oh, definitely, because especially the Masters theme, when they were, it was like, nope, they're not being subtle anymore. Nope, no.
But I really felt I thought the score over Troughton saying goodbye to Zoe and Jamie, that was, I thought, just perfect.
Oh, it was beautiful.
I really liked that.
That was, originally he was going to leave them behind to let the Time Lords just take them, back to their original time. And they said, "No, Doctor, we're coming with you." And it was like, the slow motion running to the TARDIS, that was a little tough. But then, and I, might as well jump into it with the Time Lords. I think the Time Lords, this is the most powerful we ever see the Time Lords. And, all the other times you really see the Time Lords, especially from the Tom Baker era on, they're more the aristocratic society. The people with the big, collars and the helmets and such. And they are, truly, they're gods. They're an advanced society that, has, reality at their whim. And they're able to, they're judge, jury, and executioner. Look what they did to the warlord and, and everything. Or as Judy was watching, he says, "Is that Steve Jobs?" So it was just interesting for those younger people. Steve Jobs was the guy who formed Apple, He was Elon Musk before there was an Elon Musk, basically. So, but yeah, the Time Lords were awesome in this. Being able to, literally descend on the whole planet and, send people were vanishing. The Time Lords were literally taking everyone, sending them back. And then the trial of, like I said, the warlord and, and the guy's eyes glowing and, with the yellow, that was gorgeous. That was really well done. The cage he was in, or force field or whatever it was kind of cheesy, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
But all they did was colorize it. So
yeah, they were stuck with that because of the original footage. It wasn't, they couldn't have done much more with that, unfortunately, I don't think.
Right. And so I loved but I didn't care about that, but I loved what they did. And then they, did the goodbye between, Jamie and Zoe and the Doctor. And we got to see parts of the Wheel in Space in color. and that was pretty cool. And then part of the Highlanders in color, and that was just gorgeous, just gorgeous to see. And God, I hope someday we get to see those either animated or some reason somebody finds them in their basement or something. So, but because I know parts of this storyline was missing for years too. Part of the war. So it was cool to be able to see that. I liked how on the monitors when they were showing Gallifrey, it was the modern Gallifrey with the bubble around the city and everything.
Yeah. I wondered about that. I was like, this can't be what it looked like.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, no, I thought that was good. And it was interesting because a little secret, folks, when Troughton regenerated, they didn't know who was going to be the next Doctor at that point. They basically, he just faded off into nothingness.
Yep.
And, because they weren't even sure if the series was coming back at the time. Gee, sounds familiar.
History repeats itself.
Exactly.
God.
But, and so I liked, it was neat to see the future Doctors. Too skinny, too old,
Yeah.
My strong opinion on that one is, did you really have to use promo shots of the Doctors for that? With them staring at the camera, holding their sonic screwdrivers? I'm like...
Yeah, you could have done other things, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You didn't want the pencil drawings anymore.
I was going to say, it was better than the pencil drawings.
Yes.
But it was also, again, it's this is meant for the audience who's grown up watching Modern Who might be tempted to, go watch this thing from back then and kind of enjoys, the little, whether it's the modern Doctor showing up as future incarnations or the modern Gallifrey showing up. Because in the original version, it's just that one shot of the TARDIS landing bay.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, you've arrived, and it's like, well, that's, minor anticlimax, but, they'd run out of budget at that point.
Exactly. And so they just had, overused sets that they, put black backdrops on, basically, just to have the Time Lord stand in front of them. I liked it. I enjoyed the ending. I loved, the CGI, regeneration scene was done really well and everything. When he regenerated, when Troughton went into Pertwee, it was great. And because they also have a fan film that did that also.
Devious.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you have the DVD of the full version of it, there's a little 5 or 6 minute segment from the tail end of that, because they actually brought Pertwee in and shot a regeneration scene with the guy they had playing Doctor 2.5.
Yes.
For what it's worth, that film has been shooting since John Pertwee was alive, and they're still releasing episodes of it now on their YouTube channel.
Yep.
It's still not done.
The Adventures of 2B. Or 2.5.
Yeah. 2B or not 2B. That is the question.
Exactly. And, I thought it was great. And, that part I didn't mind seeing because, and, they modernized it. And again, for a different audience type thing. So I thought, we got new Doctor Who. What did you guys think overall? Would you watch this again? Would you not?
I think I would watch the original. I mean,
Okay.
I did enjoy this. Don't get me wrong, but it really made me wish for the original. Now, after I see the original,
You might not be wishing that, Mary.
I may change my mind because I know
do it in bits. It is long. Don't marathon it in one day. No, or a weekend. No, just take your time.
5 hours is a long time.
Can I tell a story about that? I heard from friends of mine at Chicago TARDIS that, back in the 80s, they brought Patrick Troughton for, it must have been one of the Visions conventions, and somebody got the bright idea that before Troughton came on stage, they'd show one of his stories. Well, at the time, there was only a handful of them, so they picked the War Games. They invited Troughton to watch it with them. And Troughton sat through the first episode, and apparently midway through episode 2 stood up and went, y'all can stay, you can stay here and watch this. I'm going to the bar. Somebody come get me.
Yeah, because there was, another 4.5 hours left. I was like,
He must have been pretty sloshed when they went to get him.
Each episode's 25 minutes.
Yep.
It's long. It is long, folks. All right. Anything I've missed or any other top parts we want to talk about? Okay.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, no.
Well, I don't think
music editing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if we answered the question about would we watch this again.
Yeah, no,
I think we pretty much have already with your non-answers there. So
yeah, I mean, it would be. Yep. Okay, I would say because if it happened to like pop on, like if Max or something else happens to be streaming it or happens to be on television, and even then I don't think it's going to be on TV anymore. Really, where those times of being able to just like accidentally stumble upon something, and go, oh, I like this, and then keep watching. That's kind of like in my mind how I would watch it. But since we live in a time where we are actively turning things on, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, exactly. And that's a good way to put it. Would you sit down and watch the full thing? But I know it. I just looked, and it is on BritBox also, so you can see it that way too if you want to see the original.
Yeah.
We actually reviewed it back in episode 4 of Earth Station Who, way back
Lord.
when. What we did when we first started the show, we did all the regenerations. We started with the first Doctor, his first episode, then we jumped to the 10th planet. Then the next episode was the first episode with the second Doctor. Then the next episode was the War Games. Then we did Spearhead from Space, the next one, and then went through Planet of Spiders, and then Robot, and blah 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 blah, all the way through for the regenerations. Because we never did things in order, folks. Here, we just never did. All right, let's go ahead and rate this one. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's start with Matthew, since he's our guest.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think, and again, I've never been a big fan of the original one. I think it's too long for its own good, and slightly cobbled together, and how many times can you escape and be recaptured? So I do like that this version, if I'm going to watch a version of the War Games again, there's a decent chance it'll be this one, just because it's 95 minutes and it's not, 4 to 5 hours. But whether I will do that again anytime soon is a whole nother question.
Fair enough. Totally respect that, sir. All right. Melanie.
Going in, I was going to give this a 3. I think I'm still going to go with just a 3. A middle ground. It's not bad at any stretch. But to me, I don't think I'm going to rewatch it. And even then, if I do rewatch it, I'm probably going to be watching it more from the perspective of somebody that's enjoying the work behind it. So the people who went in and did the work of the colorization, the people who went and figured, I'm going to add little things here and there. It's like this nice little fan-made-ish, and I know it's not fan-made, but it's like that kind of a thing. And it's enjoyable. It's fun. I did enjoy it. I prefer the long one because I think the story's better, fully told. So happy at 3. It's a good, solid rating. Good, solid show.
All right, Mary, since it was your first time,
I think I'm also going to give it a 3.5 because I did enjoy it, and it's something that like I could have it on in the background while I was working or something. It's something that I could see myself maybe just using it as comfort food in a way when you didn't want to do the long slog through the 10 episodes. And I mean, I would recommend it, but it kind of, in some ways, breaks my heart that people might not seek out, when they do things like this, that people might not seek out the original episodes in favor of only watching these condensed versions, because no matter how well they do it, you're always going to miss something.
Oh yeah, of course.
That just makes me sad.
Oh, I kind of agree with that. Originally, I was going to give this a 4, but I'm going to also do a 3.5 because this is my favorite era of Doctor Who. This is my crew. When you had Jamie, the second Doctor, and Zoe, I loved those characters. They were just they worked so well together. The chemistry and everything was fantastic. You know, you had a lot of Troughton being the bumbling idiot and then being the smartest guy in the room in the same scenes and everything. And don't get me started on the magnets for the circuits and the controls.
Oh God, the fridge magnets.
They were all fridge magnets they were using. And it was just like, here, you just take this and you take this. And it was just like, oh God, you know.
Prop master, get over here.
Exactly. It's like, it was just like, oh, they couldn't afford, you know, to make a fake circuit board or something, you know.
It was the end of the season and they'd run out of money.
They went to the drugstore and got magnets, you know, or they went to the kids store or something to do it. And it was just like, and when the doctor, you know, took them off of it and it said, oh, I've got these. It's like all the little shapes and everything. It was like, oh, it almost looks like stuff from Lucky Charms or something,
right?
You know?
Like color forms or something
exactly.
Like that.
Oh, color forms. Exactly. That's probably what it was, you know.
Maybe it's like the bubble wrap on the guy's hand in Ark in Space, and it's become so ubiquitous to us now, but it was something new and exotic then that very few people had seen.
Well, probably. And that pulled me out of it a little bit. And then the other thing was the explosions on the theme, you know, when they did the titles and everything. Because, you know, usually with Doctor Who in that era, each episode still had its own, you know, each episode had its own title. And, you know, they basically, you know, they just would show the title by blah, 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 and then went into the story. Here, in the restoration, I did notice they had a cold opening. They didn't have a cold opening like that in the original. And, you know, and then, because it originally was just, you know, the theme song and then the war games. And then it had the TARDIS landing and everything. Here they had the TARDIS landing and everything. And then they went into the, you know, the title and everything, modernizing it again, folks. So it was just interesting. What did you guys think? Please write us feedback at ourstationwho.com. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. We did get a little bit of email, folks. We did.
Yay!
That's right. Our friend Peter is back. That's right.
Hey, Peter!
We missed him. We did miss him. So Peter is back, and he wrote us, and he said, hi, Mike. I watched the War Games. I thought the colorization was really good, but the editing into a 90-minute episode left it feeling somewhat choppy. Same thing we all said there, folks. I had seen the longer version many years ago. This is quite a different look for the Time Lords, more sorcerer than scientist. No, I didn't even think about that. That's interesting. Yeah, the robes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damn you, Dumbledore. Okay. This is quite a different look for, okay, there we go. The story concept was quite interesting, but suffered from the editing and left out a lot I felt like should have been expanded, especially some of the Civil War scenes. Could have easily even been stretched to 2 hours. Also renewed my interest in the Second Doctor and will be checking him out on BritBox. Also, I enjoyed that when he was being offered a chance to pick out his new face, we saw most of the new Doctors. Until next time, Peter Manis. Thank you, Peter. We appreciate you. We will be back again, of course, in 2 weeks. We are going to be doing something kind of fun and different for next time. We are going to be actually looking at the chances of old companions coming back to the new series. Whenever that happens, you know, even if it's the Doctor Who support group or something, it would be great to see some of these folks. So we'll be just going around, you know, 100%, 50%, no chance in hell, you know.
Patrick.
Well, exactly. So it'll be very interesting to do. I think it'll make a good discussion for all of us. We'll have a list of all the companions from the very beginning to the modern series. So we'll, you know, we're all hoping Graham comes back someday. So it's always good. So it'll be tons of fun to do. So we'll be doing that in 2 weeks. I want to thank our crew for being here, of course. Let's thank Mr. Matthew Kresal for being a good sport and doing the Geek Seat with us tonight.
Yeah. Thank you all for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Are you working on any new articles or new books or anything, sir?
I do have a couple of in-progress Doctor Who-related nonfiction books at the moment, and I need to get back into the review writing, which I've gotten out of the habit of doing. So, but hopefully more on that next time I'm on the show.
That would be wonderful, sir. I'll always like reading your stuff.
Thank you.
And of course, you can find Matthew up on Facebook or wherever, he pops his head sometimes. So it's always good to do. Let's thank our regulars, of course. Ms. Mary Ogle, it's always wonderful to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Same. Always fun to talk with you guys.
Do you want to promote your stuff?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. And of course, Ms. Melanie Dean. What you get? We did it. We made it.
I'll help. I'll say it since Mike isn't here.
Exactly. Or as Mike Gordon always goes, it's always my pleasure. So, Melanie, where can people find your stuff?
You can find my stuff at Diamond Tech Crafts. That's on Instagram, website, all that kind of fun stuff. And if you're going to be in the Tampa Bay area, Tampa Bay Comic Con, August 1st through 3rd, I will be talking all about stained glass. I'll be having 4 panels talking about Tiffany stained glass lamps. It'll be a bit history, it'll be a little bit of learning the craft.
Awesome. That is awesome. Definitely we'll have a link up to that in our show notes so people can check it out and also be able to find out the Tampa Bay Comic Con?
Tampa Bay Comic Con at the Tampa Convention Center.
Yay! That's awesome. Get out of the heat, folks. Go talk some geeky stuff.
Yep.
So tons of fun. For me, let's see what I got going on. My regular other podcasts that I produce over on Julian Schlossberg. This week we are talking to Beatrice Wells, who is the daughter of Orson Welles. And we are having a nice conversation about her father and all the different projects and different eras and how, he was kind of ostracized from Hollywood by, a lot of. So he moved to Europe quite a bit and he spent a lot of time there. Interesting stuff to find out. And then over on Tales from Hollywoodland, we are looking at The Godfather, and we are having a discussion about that. And we actually were lucky enough to actually grab hold of the young lady. Well, she's not so young anymore, but we were actually able to get hold of Andrea Eastman, who was the casting director, and she talks all about the casting of the different characters for the movie. And how she was very upset with the TV show The Offer because they misplayed some of the characters in it and such. But, it's a very fun discussion. And both of those shows I mentioned will be going live before we go live. So definitely check it out. It's really fun to do. On behalf of myself, of course, we want to thank everybody for being here. You can find us up on social media if you're into that kind of thing. We're up on Facebook, Instagram, and, if you want, just like we said earlier, just write us. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. And you know what? If you enjoy what we're doing and you've made it this far into the show, bless you. Thank you. But like and subscribe. We do appreciate you. And, give us thumbs up, or actually, if you hit the bell, you will be notified when we put new episodes or new content. So definitely check that out. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, Mr. Matthew Kresal, Ms. Melanie Dean, and of course, the wonderful Ms. Mary Ogle, we will see you all next time here on Earth Station Who. Peace and Allons-y, folks. Bye. Ciao.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talents from throughout space and time. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individuals and are to be used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our show wherever fine podcasts are found, or check out our website, earthstationwho.com. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook or Instagram, and if you enjoyed the show, please write to us at feedback@earthstationwho.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next journey of Earth Station Who.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.